Hi folks, so today I want to talk about a couple of reasons why your sugar might be high in the morning. So there are two major effects that can cause this phenomenon, and I'm going to kind of go over and explain a little bit about each of them. But one thing you need to know, when we look at glucose, when we look at blood glucose, there are actually 4 hormones that raise blood glucose and only one that lowers it. So you have insulin is our storage hormone, and then we have growth hormone, cortisol, glucagon, and neuroepinephrine. So we call cortisol and neuroepinephrine stress hormones because when you're under stress, they're secreted and they cause your sugar to go up. Human growth hormone can cause your sugar to be elevated, and it's carrying out functions. It's trying to do things to cause healing and restoration. So we know that there's a tight balance that goes on in a normal functioning metabolism, and then we also know that when the metabolism is not functioning normally, this gets out of balance. So there's a couple of effects that we need to be aware of. This one is called Rebound Hyperglycemia. I can't really pronounce this guy's name, but that's the doctor who discovered it. But basically what happens is your sugar starts to plummet sometime in the wee hours of the morning, depending on when you went to bed, somewhere around 2 to 3 a.m. And what happens then is your body responds to that low by releasing sugar. So glucagon, cortisol, epinephrine are released, and that causes the sugar to creep all the way back up. So when you get up in the morning, you may have a high number, higher than what you went to bed with. So it's just a response to a low in the middle of the night. Now the other effect is called the dawn effect. And the dawn effect is this. So when you're getting up in the morning, your body typically releases cortisol. Cortisol is the antagonist to melatonin. So at night, you're not supposed to have a lot of melatonin around. You're not supposed to have a bunch of cortisol around. You're supposed to have primarily melatonin. And that just kind of lets your body go off into sleep. In the morning, when you're ramping up and getting your day started, your body releases cortisol, and cortisol elevates blood sugar, and then these hormones here actually reduce insulin sensitivity or create a little bit of insulin resistance. So these two things are at work, and so in the morning you look and you go, oh, my sugar's really high. A lot of people would be inclined to start to take a medication or do something like that. Really what you can do is nothing, consume nothing, and maybe go for a walk and see if that doesn't create a balance or get everything back into normal, depending on how high that is. I mean, if it's ridiculously high, if it's 200, 300, 400, then you probably need something. But if it's just 130, 140, 150, it'd be better to go walk around, because the best glucose disposal agent around is actually exercise. So that's one really good way of doing it. Growth hormone is an important hormone because this is a repair hormone. And generally, as you go to sleep, let's say you went to sleep at midnight, around 1:30, that's peaking. It gets about a 90-minute pulse, and then it hits a high, and then it'll trail off over through the night. But that's a repair, rebuild, recycle hormone. So a good hormone, even though it does have a tendency to raise blood glucose levels a little bit, it also raises fatty acids too, so it also liberates fatty acids for energy, and it's actually one of the main youth hormones. But if your insulin level is high, it suppresses this. Guess what? Insulin is the big hammer. It suppresses your growth hormone level, so you don't repair, rebuild, and restore when your insulin level is high. Just like you can't burn fat. So when your fasting insulin level is high, you can't burn fat as energy. you're completely stuck in a sugar burning metabolism. So it takes a while to convert your metabolism from a sugar burning metabolism to a fat burning metabolism. But these are some of the inner mechanisms that are going on and things that you need to consider when you're changing your diet and your lifestyle, or if medications are in play. So I'm going to talk a little bit about medications and things on my next video for both type 1 and type 2 diabetics, since there's a very big similarity. The big difference is the type 1 diabetic isn't making insulin. So they're getting insulin from outside their body. They have an artificial pancreas, be it a pump or a needle or whatever. But the effects inside the body can be very similar and be dysfunctional in much the same way, because type 1 diabetics also develop insulin resistance just like type 2 diabetics. In fact, I was just talking to a guy today about this. So that's the next video, and we're going to talk about that as well. All right, so questions, comments, or anything in here about how this works and what these effects do and things to talk about, just hit it here, and we'll go over it, answer questions, comments, and everything in the video. If you get value from these things, like and share, because we want to try to help people. Whether you know it or not, I've been kind of lecturing a bit on this, but 100 million people in the United States are either pre-diabetic or diabetic, and a lot of them actually don't know it. So they're having symptoms, they're having problems, and they don't know what they are. And not ordering the proper blood work during their workup allows this to go on for far longer than it needs to be. A simple test called a fasting insulin test will pull the curtain back on a lot of these folks, and I'm uncovering it every single day. I find this every single day. So I find people who have insulin resistance every day. I have a video about insulin resistance and what it is, how it works, and how you measure it. That'd be a great one for most people to watch. But this one, if you have questions or anything, leave it on here. Okay, thanks, and I'll be back, and we're going to do another video about insulin resistance in type 1 and type 2 diabetics.